All right, welcome to this next webinar that we're doing for the Multifamily Investor Nation. The topic today is about starting an apartment syndication business, and we're going to go through and talk about a lot of things that are going to be important for you as you venture out and you start a business that would be around apartment syndication. Now, a lot of these same concepts and topics can be related to other industries inside of real estate or even in just the private equity realm, but we're going to focus it today on apartment syndication. So the first thing on here is, well, first, before I get started, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm Dan Handford. I'm one of the managing partners of PassiveInvesting.com. And if you want to find out more information about me, you can actually go to PassiveInvesting.com. And in the Our Team section, there's a video on there about me introducing you to me. And so I don't spend too much time here on the video going over a lot of my background, but you can go there and watch that quick 2 or 3 minute video. So it's me describing a little bit about myself and my background. And for those of you who haven't done this just yet, we have our next MFIN Summit available. And you can go now to mfinsummit.com. You can see the website here right on your screen to be able to do it. You can go to mfinsummit.com and it'll allow you to find out what kind of information or speakers are going to be available for the MFIN Summit that's coming up in June 2021. So it's going to be June 10th, 11th, and 12th. So you can go there. You can see there right on your screen now, the website. Go to mfinsummit.com. Would love to have you join us. This is our 7th time doing it. There are usually over 40 to 50 speakers, and we usually have about 800 to 900 attendees at each one of these events. It's virtual. It's all online. So go take a look. Go to mfinsummit.com to take a look. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this topic here about starting an apartment syndication business. So the first thing on here that we need to talk about and uncover is things that you should be considering before you start an apartment syndication business. Now, I'm going to tell you about something that might upset some of you, might be encouraging to some of you, and might be something that you don't agree with. But I'm going to share it with you because it's something that I truly believe. In the apartment syndication business and in the apartment syndication realm, I do not believe that you can hold down a full-time job and effectively manage other people's money inside of apartment syndication. So let me just tell you what I mean by that. So I have this list of 7 red flags that my wife and I have put together, because right now my wife and I have 38 different LP passive investments with about 14 different operators around the country. So yes, we have our own group, PassiveInvesting.com, but we also have LP investments with other operators because we have cash flow that comes into our accounts every single month, and we want to be able to distribute or be able to place that capital even if we don't, our own group, have a deal to put it into. And so we came up with this 7 red flags for passive apartment investing. And for those of you who want to find out what the other 7 flags are on this list, you can go to PassiveInvesting.com and in our knowledge center, just type in red flags in the search box and you'll be able to find it there. For those of you who are joining us live, I'll ask Melissa to go ahead and find that link and type it into the chat box so you can follow it and go ahead and take a look at it. But one of the things inside of this 7 red flags, and if you don't know what a red flag is, a red flag is truly a stop. It's a no-go, don't do it, right? This is what we call a red flag. Yellow flags are different. Yellow flags cause you kind of pause, slow down, maybe look at things a little bit deeper, and then make a decision if you want to move forward with that particular operator. But this one red flag that I talk about is an important red flag. And I want to make sure that when I'm investing my wife and I's hard-earned money into a deal, I want to make sure that I have full-time efforts focused on it. I don't want to invest it with somebody who is trying to do it as like a side hobby or doing it on nights and weekends, because I know doing this full-time that it is not a business that can be done part-time. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, I might as well go ahead and disconnect now because I have a full-time job and I wanted to try to, start a syndication business and kind of eventually get out of the rat race and to do this on my own, right? So I'm going to give you a couple things that you can think about to be able to do that will allow you to still work your 9-to-5 job and do you have your corporate job, but still be able to maybe start this on the side. So one of the things that I recommend is you can but you can maybe even build your own authority platform. Build your own platform that will allow you to be able to attract investors into your fold, if you will, or into your database or your list or however you want to classify it. And that database can now be tapped into, and you can partner with other operators that are full-time in the business. And when you tap into those operators and be able to, you can raise capital, right? And then and I'm going to talk about some of the compliance side of things here in just a minute too, because you cannot just raise money for a deal and walk away, right? Unless you're a broker dealer. So if you're a broker dealer, great, you can do that. And there's ways to structure it and get set up to do that. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. I'm talking about being able to raise capital for a particular operator, but you're actually going to join them on the GP side, and you're going to be able to provide some additional things other than just raising capital, whether it be signing on the loan, providing some of the risk money, doing some of the asset management, underwriting, financial analysis. There's a lot of different moving pieces and parts to a syndication business that you could maybe get started on a part-time basis and being able to still get your feet wet and still being able to get to the point of being able to help, if you will, and be able to get your name on the GP side, build that credibility, build those extra cash flows and reserves so that eventually you can replace your W-2 job and be able to do this full-time if you choose, right? I know several people who have started this way, and they realize that there is a lot of work to do your own apartment syndication business. There's a lot of moving parts to it, and they prefer to just do it this way, right? They can still keep their 9-to-5 job if they want to, or maybe go part-time in their 9-to-5 job and maybe only do it mornings or afternoons, or maybe just do some more freelance work in their particular skill set. And they can now do two things and have revenue and cash flows coming in from both sides, right? So that to me is something that you need to think about and consider as you're thinking about starting your apartment syndication business, because it is definitely important and crucial for you to make those decisions before you move forward. So a couple other things that I wanted to mention to you about this is about the things to consider before starting an apartment syndication business is how you're going to structure it, right? Is it just going to be you? Are you going to have multiple people helping you? Are you going to bring on lots of investors, or maybe you're just going to do it on a smaller basis? And maybe if you're going to do it on a smaller basis, you don't really necessarily want to, bring on a bunch of investors. Maybe you do JV partnerships, right? So there's a difference between doing a JV partnership where all the operators or all the people that are on the deal are doing something to actively participate with the deal, and then doing an actual syndication business. With our group, we have some deals that have as low as 35 investors in it, upwards to almost 300 investors in it. Just depends on the size of the equity raise, right? So one of our most recent deals that we closed last year was a $57.6 million deal, and we raised to $21.49 million to acquire that one. And that's the one that had almost 300 investors in it, right? And so there's going to be a lot of moving pieces and parts to that. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to start smaller. And so that's really the considerations that you have to think about first and you get started is, do I want to start with a smaller apartment syndication setup, or do I want to go after some of the larger assets and just do it great right out of the gate, right? And so that's one of the things you have to decide before you start hiring a mentor, because these mentors that are out there will teach you either way, but I recommend trying to find a mentor that is doing what you want to be doing in the future. So if you want to be doing the large apartment syndications, go find a mentor that you can have direct access to, not one of their coaches or one of their mentors or something like that, but you want direct access to them, and you will be able to reduce your learning curve and get to where you want to go faster. That's what I did with our group. And that's actually how I found one of our partners in our group, is through our mutual mentor, and he connected us, and it has been a great relationship ever since, right? There's actually 3 partners in our group. And again, another one of those red flags is making sure you have multiple partners when you are investing inside of another group. You never want to invest with a group that only has one operator or one main partner, right? One main operator. You want to have multiple ones, because it will allow you to have the ability to reduce your risk when it comes to that one person dying or that one person going out, falling off the face of the earth, because it's happened. And if you go read that article I mentioned, it'll actually talk to you about that story about how I had a friend of mine that had a $200,000 investment in a deal, and he had brought in another one of his friends for another $200,000, and they ended up having their operator go ghost on them. And it's because there was only one operator, and that's why I added it to our red flag list. And that's what my wife also always practices, is making sure that we're not investing with just one operator it's just them, right? So the next thing on here is finding your USP to stand out from other syndicators. So what are you going to do for your USP? And if you don't know what that is, I want you to write this down. The USP stands for the unique selling proposition, right? You want to have that unique thing that separates you from other people. And then what you have to ask yourself when you're setting this up is, why would anybody else invest with you versus somebody else, right? And that's the thing that you have to figure out and try to separate yourself and stand out. Otherwise, you become a commodity. And when you're a commodity, people aren't sticking to you because of you, right? They're just sticking to you because you have this one little thing that you're selling, this investment opportunity. But what is the thing that separates you? What's the thing that keeps you separate from everybody else that's out there in the field? And to give you a little bit of a background about us and at passiveinvesting.com, what our USP is that we treat our investors like a person and have a relationship with them through our investor relations process. And we do not just treat them as a number. So when somebody comes to our website, which we usually have anywhere between about on the low end, about 70 or 80 new leads coming to our new investor leads coming into our website, and upwards on a really high month, we've had about 180 to 190 new leads come in. And let me actually pull it up real quick and I'll tell you how many we've had in the last 30 days. So we have this. We've had 124 new investor leads come to our website that have come into our fold. They went to our website, they filled out that Passive Investor Club form, and have joined the Passive Investor Club right in the last 30 days. That was since January 11th, 2021. So we use a software called Active Campaign to manage that lead generation process for us, and that is what we are looking at on a regular basis to kind of see how well we are doing with our marketing. But we don't just look at that and go, oh, we have 124 people that came in, or numbers, right? We had 124 new people or new investors that we can now build a relationship with, and we want to create that deeper connection with our investors. Okay. And so one of the ways because there's a couple of ways that we actually do that. One of the things that we do for kind of staying in contact with our investors is we have an investor newsletter that we actually send out. And Don, would you mind, if you're not too busy, go ask Jason for one of those newsletters. I want to show them what it looks like. We have one, I think, from our January newsletter. Just see if you can give me an example of it, and I'll see if I can show them real quick. So I'll have Don go try to find that copy. I'm going to show you kind of what we send out to our investors on a monthly basis. And this is not something that's easy to do. It's something that's been a little bit of a work in process for us, but we've been doing it now for over a year. And the reviews that we get off of these newsletters has been astounding. And what it does for us is it allows us to be able to stay in contact with our investors. They get to hear from us. They get to learn from us. They get to be educated from us. They get to know how we think. And it also allows us to be able to build that credibility and build that kind of authority with them, because we're now the experts in their eyes, and we're the ones teaching them what they should and should not be doing. And so what we do is each one of our managing partners will write an article inside of this newsletter that educates the investors on various things that we're working on and the different aspects of what we actually focus on. And it is definitely a process. And it's something that I would suggest that what I'm going to show you is something that might not be something that you'll get started like right away, right? Our very first newsletter did not look like this. I mean, you can ask Melissa before she joined us, our newsletter was not that good, right? All right, so here it is. So this is actually the newsletter here. So this is called the Passive Investor. You can kind of see that kind of get the lights off of it a little bit. And this is one that we sent out in January. So this is a nice little kind of magazine style newsletter, high gloss printed newsletter that we send out. One of the things that we do is we actually include something like this. So I don't know if you can see this very well, but this is actually the cover of the newsletter, and we put it into a coloring sheet format. And the reason why we do that is because we want our investors to involve the family. And so we do this so that their children can now have something they can start a conversation with their family about, to be able to start coloring. And then guess what? This says Passive Investor on it, passiveinvesting.com. And when their child colors this, guess where it's going to go? It's going to go on top of the refrigerator, right? Or right on the side of the refrigerator. They're going to stick a magnet on it, boom. And when they have family and friends come over, it's going to be a talking piece for them, right? So again, it's another way for us to be able to build referrals from these as well. So inside of this, we you can see some of the other things we do. So here's some of our stats from 2020. We put together little stats for our investors on how much we acquired. You can see there, we acquired a little over 156 million acquisitions, raised over $61 million from our investors with 42 different states, and added another 615 active investors that actually invested inside of one of our deals in 2020, right? And so these are some of the additional things that we include in here. Some of the stuff in here is stuff that I can't show you because it's only for our investors, but this is our 2021 multifamily market outlook that we did. This is one that I won't be able to show you because it's what we do. The reason why I say I can't show you is because inside of this newsletter, we interview one of our passive investors so that all of our other investors can kind of know who they're investing alongside. And we tell them that that's going to be private information. We're not going to publish it anywhere else. It only goes in this printed newsletter. Nobody else sees it. And that way they feel more comfortable sharing a little bit of things that might be a little bit more personal about them. But here's another thing that we did here for Brandon. Actually, he wrote on some personal development stuff that he was doing for 2021. And then we also include some, market updates. One of the markets we're going after is Tampa, Florida. So you can see that there, the Tampa, Florida market update or featured market that we talked about, or excuse me, the camera's flipped around. So on this side, then you can also see our word search that we give for the investors too. And they can submit this word search to us and get entered into a drawing for a gift card that we actually have available for them too. So these are just some additional things that we do to stay in contact with our investors, and the investors that get on a phone call with us, have a conversation with them. We get their mailing address to be able to send this to them. Now, one of the other things that we do is we also, whenever we have an offering available, we'll print up a really nice, our offering memorandum that we email out. We'll also print it up, and every investor that we have their mailing address for, we will also send it to them in the mail so they have a hard copy, perfect bound investor offering memorandum so we can make sure that we reach them. Because we have a pretty high open rate with our emails. It's about a 52 to 53% open rate with our emails, which is really good for email marketing. But at the same time, I always looked at that and I was like, that's 47 to 48% of the people that are still not engaging in opening our emails. But if I have their mailing address, I know almost 100% of the time they're going to get this, right? Obviously, the U.S. Postal Service isn't 100% accurate, but I'm going to be able to get them to open that up because I'm going to send that to them and they're going to receive it and they're going to digest it. Now, one of the other unique things that we did last year, just to give as an extra side tip for you, is we actually printed up this newsletter and put it inside of we actually printed up this newsletter and printed up a double copy of it. So a second copy of it, and we shrink wrapped it, whatever I want to say, shrunk wrapped, whatever. We wrapped it and then put a sticker on the outside of it. And we sent it to all the investors and said, here is a second copy. We printed this up on purpose for you to be able to hand off to a family member, a friend, a coworker, an acquaintance, somebody to be able to tell them kind of some of the things that you're researching and to be able to spread the word about passively investing inside of multifamily as well as some of our self-storage assets that we're putting together. So that's a unique way that we kind of stand out, is try to stay in front of our investors in multiple types of media. But our first one did not look like this. So I would recommend that you doing it, not just via email, because we have an email update a monthly email that we send out, but the printed one is one that we also have as well. And even if it just starts off with like a 1 or 2 page notebook style, or, the easiest thing to get started with on a newsletter like this is printing up an 11 by 17 newsletter and printing it up, folding it in half. And when you do that, you can now have this nice newsletter and you can fold it in half again and you can stick it in a smaller envelope and get it sent out. Right. And that's how we got started. That was the very first one that we did. It was very basic. We look at it today and we're like, wow, I can't even believe we let that out of the house, right? I let that out of the office or off the printer. But this one is definitely one that Melissa on our team has done a great job of putting together and making us look really good, right? So all of this stuff is done in-house with us. So I get people emailing us all the time. Who do you use for that? Do you outsource it? And no, it's all done in-house. So, and you cannot have Melissa, right? She's really good. She works really well with us, and nobody on our team wants to get rid of her. So she's definitely valuable for us. So how should you brand yourself, right? I don't know, Melissa, if you have one of our brand cards that you can maybe share with us. I'll try to give you the controls to share here in just a moment if you wanted to share this, and maybe walk us through the brand card on maybe passiveinvesting.com if you wanted to do that. So I'll have her find that passiveinvesting.com brand card. And I'm going to have her come on for just a quick moment here and just share a little bit about this brand card and kind of why it's there, what's the purpose of it, and kind of what you can actually do to do that as well. Okay. So when you're ready, Melissa, I have you shared screens, just pop up anytime. Oh, there you go. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to her, let her share this with you, just a quick moment here, and then you can turn it back over to me.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Dan. So this is our passiveinvesting.com brand card. It's fairly simple. There's not much that goes into it, but it's just something that everybody across the company can keep at hand. So, if Brandon's working on something with somebody and needs to share our brand, it's got our logo and the font that we use, and then our 2 colors, and then the color code. So anybody who kind of has any sort of marketing background can understand that, colors can vary, but just making sure that our brand is consistent across all platforms, even if me as the marketing director is not the one who's actually, using these colors and our fonts. It's just something that we share across the company and with third party as well, if we ever outsource any sort of print jobs or anything like that. So that's something that we keep handy for all of our brands, especially passiveinvesting.com. So I didn't know if there's anything else, Dan, that you wanted me to mention about this.
No, that's great. I mean, I think, one of the things that is also important with this, Melissa, is the fact that, like you said, there's a lot of different things that are being done. There's a lot of things that are being printed up, and to be able to have this brand unity, I think, is really important, because sometimes you'll get like 4 or 5 different shades of this blue unless you actually give them these color codes, right?
Correct. Yeah. So especially for printers, I make sure, even though I'm sending them, typically I send documents to our printers. They do have a copy of the brand card just to make sure that everything looks good when it comes off the printer.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. Thank you for that, Melissa. I know she wasn't actually prepared for that, but she did a pretty good job. So thank you, Melissa. All right. So let's talk about getting your team in place, and then I'll open it up for some questions and answers, because we're running a little over time here. I told you about 20 minutes or so. So let me open it up for some questions and answers after I answer this last question here. Let me see here. Last thing in here is about building your team. So when we talk about building your team, there's 2 different teams that you need to be thinking about, right? There's your in-house team of your partners and your team that you're in your staff, right? That's going to be helping you, right, to be able to grow your group. So as you grow, you're going to need asset managers. You're going to need some marketing help, right? You're going to need, like we right now have. I'll just kind of walk you through our team members that we have right now. So we have our 3 managing partners. So there's myself. There's also Brandon Abbott and Danny Randazzo. We have our director of asset management. His name is Brian Bornhorst. So he's full-time with us. We also have a full-time video editor and producer, which is Don. We were talking about him earlier. He works with us full-time. We also have Melissa. She's our director of marketing and public relations. And then we have, for assisting us really with a lot of the back-end administration, with a lot of the events that we're putting on, we have Stacy Foster. So she helps us with that, and she's full-time with us. And then we have I actually have I say I have an assistant. I have a couple of assistants that I work with, but one of them actually works here in my office and does lots of different odds and ends and things like that. Kind of helps me get more time back during the day. And then if I need errands to be run or anything like that, he kind of helps with that. And then I also have another assistant who really helps with our investor relations and not really onboarding with investors, but really once an investor is onboarded and we're raising funds or doing what I call securing capital from our investors, she manages that entire process for us, right? And then we also have a full-time investor relations consultant that works for us. We also have an analyst that works for us. And we also have 2 team members that are full-time on the self-storage side of things, right? Well, one of them is actually part-time right now. They're moving to full-time with us in the self-storage team, but we do have one full-time person with us that's on the acquisition side on the self-storage team that we have. But as you're getting started, it's going to likely be just you and your partners, right? That's how we got started. And as we continue to close more deals, as we continue to grow, we actually use the asset management fees from the properties to be able to grow our team. So there's the internal team that you have to be thinking about and growing. And then there's the external team. And the external team is going to be your property management companies. It's going to be your attorneys. It's going to be your lenders. It's going to be your insurance people. I mean, there's going to be a large number of people on the external side that are working with you and that are obviously not being paid directly by you like that, right? But those are some things that you have to consistently be thinking about. Now, the internal team, one thing I wanted to mention about that is as you are trying to find a partner for your group, make sure that you don't find a partner that does things exactly like you. And maybe not necessarily exactly like you, but when you try, I've studied this whole like partnership thing ad nauseum. And one of the things that I've found is that partnerships usually don't work out. They usually fail, right? And one of the reasons why they fail is because you try to find somebody to partner with that's like you. And the problem with that is that if you find somebody like you, guess what? You're going to butt heads with yourself quite a bit. And so and I'll give you a couple of examples. So if you like underwriting, don't find somebody else who also likes underwriting. You want to find somebody that does things that you don't like to do so that you can actually balance and be complementary partners and not stepping on each other's toes. Because if you both like underwriting, you're going to want to do it this way. They're going to want to do it this way. And you're going to have a lot of issues and it's going to cause you to fall apart. Right? Just trust me on this one. I've seen it happen time and time again. Most partnerships fail. But I believe that one of the main reasons why our partnership with PassiveInvesting.com with our 3 partners has worked so well is because each one of us don't like doing the other person's job, the other person's role and responsibility. We only like to do the stuff that we are focused on. Now, it doesn't mean we don't know how to do those other things. We all know how to do each other's job. And so if we need to step in, we can do that, right? But we don't want to have to be doing those other jobs on a regular basis. So I focus on investor relations and overall strategic objectives of the company and marketing. And then we have Brandon who focuses on acquisitions and CapEx and construction and inspections and things like that on the properties. And then we have Danny on our team who focuses on the financial aspects of everything that we do, whether it be the financial due diligence, the underwriting, the looking through the lease audits and going through and working with the lenders and the attorneys and getting everything to closing table. That's what his focus is on. And guess what? I don't like doing any of that other stuff that Brennan and Danny does. I like doing what I'm doing, right? Same thing with them. So you need to, when you're looking for a partner, don't find somebody that does things like you. But the problem is the tendency as humans is to want to align ourselves and be friends with people that are like us, right? Because if you like underwriting, it's great because you can talk to somebody that likes underwriting too. But don't partner with them. Just be friends with them, right? Be the lifeline for them and you have them be your lifeline when you have questions or you get stuck on underwriting, but don't partner with them, okay? All right, so let me go ahead and open this up for some questions and answers here. Got a couple of questions already that I've come in through here that I will field here. We'll go for about probably 5 or 10 minutes answering some of these questions that come through, and then we'll go from there. Let's see. Yes, it was funny. Someone was asking what does MFIN stands for. What does the MFIN stand for? And it's not MFN, right? So it's not the MFN Summit, although you could probably call it that too. It's actually the MFIN stands for Multifamily Investor Nation. Okay. Just like our Storage Investor Nation Summit, it's actually called the SIN Summit, SIN, but it stands for Storage Investor Nation. Does that have anything to do with Las Vegas? All right. Let's see here. Oh, hold on. My little touch screen's not scrolling properly. 1 second here. Let's see. Irish is asking a question in here. Irish Kevin is asking a question in here. Good to have you on here, Kevin, by the way. Do you have a legal agreement between the managing partners for operations and possible dissolution of the company? And how do you pay your employees while starting out? So what happens when you first get started out is you don't pay your employees because guess what? You're not going to have any, right? So if there's no funds coming in to pay the employees, then I would suggest not hiring employees. You are the one that's going to be doing everything yourself. Now, if you have some capital that's sitting on the sidelines and you want to use that to be able to hire your team, certainly do that, right? You can certainly get to where you want to go faster by doing that. But in the meantime, you're going to be the one as that kind of business owner and entrepreneur doing everything yourself. That's how we got started as well. We were doing everything, but we knew that as we were growing, we couldn't effectively manage our investors' money and assets if we were all trying to do it ourselves, right? And then continue to grow and be on the trajectory that we're on right now. So we purposely set it out front to say, we're not going to be taking home any of the asset management fees. Those asset management fees are going to go back into the company to allow it to grow. Now, yes, there is an operating agreement that is between all three managing partners and that it discusses what happens if there is a dissolution. It also discusses what happens if one of us passes away and dies. So there's definitely things that you have to make sure that you discuss with your attorney and your partners to make sure that you have all that covered. Right. And there'll be some things that you're not even thinking about that your attorney will bring up and they'll add into those operating agreements. And yes, I would highly recommend that you have an attorney draw that up and make sure it's in writing ahead of time and that the percentages and the splits are set up as well. Okay. Next question in here. Let's see here. How do you find commercial multifamily homes in your area for sale? So, Carly, there's actually some really good information. There's a lot of good information on our YouTube channel. So let me actually go pull that up just real quick for you. And I will share with you a link to our YouTube channel. There we go. I don't think you guys could hear that anyway. There's something else that was popped up on here playing. Let me see here. There's my chat box again. Here we go. All panelists and attendees. So if you go to this website, this link I just put into the chat box, and if you type into the search box, finding deals, we did a couple of webinars on this, and we'll be doing some future ones in the future on finding deals in your local market and stuff. But you can go there right now and just type in finding deals, and you'll be able to see a list of, actually, we just did one about 2 months ago, finding your first deal for apartment syndication. One of our managing partners, Brandon Abbott, actually did that one. So I'll just type this in here and give you that search quickly here so you can see that. But if you go to our YouTube channel, it's just Multifamily Investor Nation, and you can type into the search box, finding deals or raising capital or underwriting. There's a lot of good videos on there. And we always do a webinar every single week. So make sure that you whitelist our email address, and so that you can be aware of the webinars as we are announcing them. Okay. And I'll share with you here shortly what our next webinar is going to be as well. All right. So Alan is asking, can we get a sample PDF copy of your newsletter to review? So the answer to that question is no. We do not release this via PDF or via email or anything like that. But if you have questions about the setup or anything like that, you can certainly let me know, or even email, or let Melissa know as well. So, but we do not release this outside of our own investors. So, if for some reason you wanted to get a copy of this, then maybe send me an email, and I'll see if maybe I have a good heart to want to spend $1.50 or $2 and send it to you. I don't know exactly what it costs, but somewhere around in there, I'm sure. And then it costs to actually send it out. Do you outsource all of your on-site property management to a third-party property management company? So yes, the answer to that question is yes. We do outsource all of our property management to a third party. So the third party manages the asset on a day-to-day basis. We have they are the ones that go out and hire the full-time staff that are staffed on the property. And then our full-time asset manager, Brian Bornhorst, is the one who is the asset manager who is actually managing the property managers. And so he is on a phone call every single week with each one of our assets to make sure that they are running smoothly, to make sure that things that are being done, and that if there's any decisions that have to be made, he can be there to be able to help make some of those decisions. Question here is, who was your mentor and how long did it take before you went on your own? So who is my mentor is Joe Fairless. Joe Fairless is my mentor, and it took us I'd probably say about 6 months to get our first deal under contract and do it on our own, right? We partnered with two groups first when we first got started, and then we ended up doing it on our own after we had built up some of our own credibility, and we had built up some of our own credibility with the brokers as well as with the sellers. All right. The last question here I'm going to go ahead and take is what is the going rate for mentors? So the mentors are all over the board. So you can join a mentor group that has just like a monthly fee to it, where it's like a small kind of couple $100 a month or a couple $1,000 a month, or you can join a mentor program that can be upwards of $100,000 for a year to 2 year mentoring program, right? So it's really just going to depend on who you are finding and the quality of that person. So you just have to think about that that and go research. And when you're finding these different mentors, you have to go find these different mentors. And I would suggest interviewing them and asking them about those various rates that you're going to have for them. So, all right. So thank you so much for all these questions. The next webinar that is going to be available for next week. Let me see if I can refresh my screen here. It's going to be what to look for in a market before you invest in multifamily. So if you want to go register for that webinar, you can do that. I'll have Melissa go ahead and type into the chat box there and put it into the chat box. You can have the link to be able to register for the next one. And if for some reason you want to join us next hour, in the next hour, we're going to be doing a self-storage webinar. So it's going to be the Storage Investor Nation webinar, and it's going to be all about how to find, or not how to find, but how to get started acquiring self-storage assets. So thank you so much for being here with us. We're looking forward to this new studio that we have built out and bringing some new things to you over the next several weeks and months. So make sure you stay tuned and you stay connected. And once again, we'll see you next week at the next Multifamily Investor Nation webinar.